My name is Nadine Crowell. I am 46 years old, and for the last 8 years, my sister has been telling our whole family that I drive an old car because I am afraid of success. She said it softly at first, the way people test a knife against skin before they press harder. Then she started saying it loudly, at birthdays, at cookouts, in front of strangers who did not know me well enough to understand why my hands always went quiet around a checkbook. Last Sunday evening, while my family sat under the chandelier in Blythe's marble kitchen eating salmon off plates that cost more than my tires, my sister looked through the window at my old silver Buick parked beside her new black SUV and said, "Some people are just born to count coupons." Everyone laughed. My mother laughed into her napkin. My cousin laughed too hard because he owed Blythe a favor. And Blythe smiled at me like she had just placed me exactly where she believed I belonged. Small, practical, dusty, necessary only when something needed fixing. The part that made the laugh land so deep was not the car. I knew what my car was. It was a 2006 Buick Lucerne with a faded hood, a heater that clicked before it worked, and a trunk full of grocery bags I kept meaning to recycle. I had kept that car because it ran. I had kept that car because I refused to finance a life just so other people could admire it from the curb. And I had kept that car because, 6 years earlier, when Blythe's dream house almost disappeared in foreclosure, I signed my name on a piece of paper that kept her from losing the driveway she now used to mock mine. She did not tell the family that part. Of course she did not. In Blythe's version of our lives, her mansion was proof of ambition, her SUV was proof of taste, and my old Buick was proof that I had never wanted more. What she left out was the bank packet locked in my desk, the late notices folded in order, and the guarantee letter with my name sitting quietly under her chandelier like a loaded gun nobody could see. Before I tell you what I did the next morning, you have to understand how a sister becomes both a queen and a debt in the same family. Blythe was always the bright one. Not smarter. Brighter. There is a difference. She entered a room like she expected it to arrange itself around her. I entered a room looking for the empty chair and the bill. Our father, Orson, used to say Blythe had spark, and I had sense, which sounded fair until you learned that spark was celebrated and sense was assigned chores. Blythe got rescued. I got trusted. Blythe cried in the kitchen. I cleaned the kitchen. Blythe overdrafted and called it pressure. I balanced 3 accounts and called it Tuesday. By the time we were grown, everyone in the Crowell family had accepted the arrangement without ever naming it. Blythe lived beautifully. Nadine made sure nothing ugly touched the floor. If you have ever been the practical one in a family that worships sparkle, you already know the particular loneliness of being useful. You are thanked just enough to keep showing up and noticed only when you stop. So stay with me and subscribe, because this story is not about an old car. It is about the moment a woman realizes the thing everyone laughed at was the only reason their favorite person still had a roof. 6 years before that dinner, Blythe called me at 10:40 on a Thursday night. I remember the time because I had just taken off my shoes, and one of them was still in my hand when she said, "Nadine, please don't be mad." That sentence in my family has always meant money. She and her husband at the time, Devlin, had bought the house on Briar Hollow Lane 2 years earlier. 7 bedrooms, stone front, curved staircase, a kitchen with 2 ovens for a woman who ordered dinner more often than she cooked it. She called it the Forever House. She posted pictures of it every week. What she did not post was that Devlin's contracting business had collapsed, 2 mortgage payments had been missed, a tax bill had been ignored, and the bank was preparing to call the loan. She needed a temporary guarantor for a refinance bridge. Temporary. That was the word she used the way a magician uses a cloth. I said no first. I want that part recorded, at least here. because in my family the story later became that I had volunteered. I did not. I said no. I said I did not want my name tied to a house I did not live in, a mortgage I did not control, and a marriage I did not trust. Blythe cried so hard she had to hand the phone to my mother. Mom told me the grandchildren would lose their rooms, though Blythe did not have children yet. Dad told me family did not let family fall when they could extend a hand. Then Blythe came back on the line and whispered, "Please, Naughty, just this one time. You have good credit. I have nothing else." There are sentences that do not ask for help. They aim directly at the oldest wound in you. I drove to the bank the next morning before work and signed a limited guarantee that was supposed to expire after the refinance stabilized. I read the clauses. I understood enough to be afraid, but not enough to walk away from my sister's tears while my parents waited for me to prove I loved them correctly. The refinance did not stabilize. Devlin left 2 years later with a bass boat, a younger girlfriend, and a trail of unpaid invoices. Blythe kept the house because appearance was the one bill she never missed in public. The private bills came to me, not always as requests, sometimes as warnings copied by the bank because my name was still attached. Past due, cure period, re-verification required, guarantor notice. My sister would text me afterward with hearts and excuses. "It's just timing. The bank is being dramatic. I'm handling it." She was never handling it. I was. I made 2 emergency payments one winter when the account dropped too low. I covered a tax escrow shortage after she bought the SUV because the dealership had the perfect rate. I even paid a legal fee during the divorce because, if the house got tangled in court, my guarantee got tangled with it. I told myself I was protecting my credit. That was true. It just was not the whole truth. I was also protecting the family picture where Blythe stood in front of the mansion and I stood behind the camera, invisible and financially responsible. Then came the dinner. Blythe called it a small family gathering, which meant 22 people, hired flowers, and enough food to make everyone forget she had once called me crying because her electricity was scheduled to shut off. I almost did not go. My car had been making a soft grinding sound all week, and I was tired in a way sleep does not fix. But my mother said Dad had been asking for me, so I drove out to Briar Hollow Lane with a pecan pie balanced on the passenger seat and my bank packet sitting in the back of my mind like a storm cloud. The house looked beautiful that evening. That is the honest truth, and it is part of why the insult worked. The stone glowed gold in the porch lights. The windows were tall and warm. Her SUV shone in the driveway like a black mirror. And beside it, my Buick looked like a tired animal that had wandered onto the wrong property. I felt it before anyone said anything, the small turn of heads, the little smiles. Blythe saw me see them, and a pleasure moved across her face so quickly anyone else might have missed it. I did not. Older sisters have long memories for younger sisters' faces. Dinner was almost over when my cousin Wade started talking about car prices. Blythe leaned back with her wine and said, "Don't ask Nadine. She still thinks a vehicle is something you keep until it apologizes and dies." A few people laughed. I looked down at my plate. Then she added the line about coupons. "Some people are just born to count coupons." This time the table really laughed. My father did not. I remember that. He looked at his fork. But he did not defend me either, which in that house had always been its own kind of vote. Blythe lifted her glass and looked around the room she believed proved her right. "I mean, I respect it," she said. "Not everyone wants a bigger life." That was the exact moment something inside me stopped negotiating. Not exploded, not shattered. Stopped. I looked at the chandelier, then at the double ovens, then through the window at the SUV parked beside my old Buick, and I thought, very clearly, none of this is bigger than the truth. It only looks bigger because I have been standing under it holding the foundation up. I did not answer her. That disappointed her, I think. Blythe prefers a victim who flinches. I help my mother clear plates because old training does not vanish in one dramatic second. I wrap my pecan pie, untouched, because apparently expensive dinners do not leave room for ordinary offerings. Then I drove home in the car everyone had laughed at, listening to the heater click before it warmed, and when I reached my apartment, I did not take off my coat. I went straight to my desk and unlocked the bottom drawer. The packet was heavier than I remembered. Paper has a way of gaining weight when you avoid it long enough. I spread everything across my kitchen table. The original guarantee, the bank notices, the emails, the payments I had made, the escrow shortage, the letters Blythe had begged me to ignore because she was working something out. Then I found the newest envelope, the one I had not opened yet, because a person can be brave in public and still be a coward at her own mailbox. It was from Cormorant Federal. Final Guarantor Review. My eyes moved slowly, the way they do when your body understands bad news before your mind gives it language. Blythe's loan had failed refinance review again. The bank was requiring either full financial requalification from the borrower or renewal of my guarantee by Friday at noon. If I refused, the loan would be placed into default review. In plain English, Blythe's mansion had 3 business days left before the bank stopped pretending with her. And here was the part she did not know. The guarantee was no longer automatic. Because of a consumer protection rule added after the divorce modification, I had the right to withdraw at review if I had not received full disclosure from the borrower. I had not received disclosure. I had received mockery under a chandelier. There is a legal difference between being generous and being trapped. For 6 years, I had not known that difference mattered. At midnight, with my sister's laughter still sitting in my ears, I learned that it did. I opened a new spreadsheet. Not because I needed one, but because a spreadsheet is what I do when my heart is too angry to be trusted alone. Column 1, date. Column 2, bank notice. Column 3, amount paid by Nadine. Column 4, public story told by Blythe. That last column turned cruel fast. Emergency mortgage payment. Blythe posted vacation photos. Escrow shortage. Blythe bought patio furniture. Legal fee. Blythe told Aunt Rhea she handled the divorce like a boss. Credit review warning. Blythe made a joke about my Buick. By 1:30 in the morning, the total I had paid to protect her image was $18,920. The total risk still tied to my name was much worse. I sat there looking at it until the numbers stopped being numbers and became a map of every time I had mistaken silence for love. Tell me in the comments if you have ever protected someone's reputation while they used yours as a doormat. That is a special kind of betrayal. It does not happen in one blow. It happens in deposits, signatures, quiet rescues, and family dinners where the person standing on your shoulders complains that you are too short. The next morning, I did one thing I had never done before. I called the bank before Blythe called me. A man named Callum Price handled the guarantee review. His voice was polite in the careful way bankers sound when they are holding matches near a dry field. I asked him to explain my position as if I were a stranger and not the woman whose name had been keeping my sister's house alive. He confirmed it all. Yes, my guarantee was up for renewal. Yes, the bank needed my signature to continue the current arrangement. Yes, without it, the file would move to default review. No, I was not personally required to renew. Yes, if I withdrew, the borrower would be notified. Then he paused and said, Ms. Crowell, I need to ask whether you are under pressure from the borrower or family members to sign. That question nearly undid me, not because it was complicated, because it was simple. No one in my family had ever asked whether pressure counted if it came wrapped in love. I looked at the spreadsheet on my table. I looked at the old car key beside it, and I said, Yes, but not anymore. I did not withdraw that second. I wanted to, but I am not reckless. I gave Blythe one chance to tell the truth. I texted her a calm message asking to meet at Mom and Dad's house that evening with the bank documents and a real plan. I wrote that I would not discuss jokes, cars, or appearances. Only the loan. Only the facts. She replied 15 minutes later. Are you seriously still upset about dinner? Nadine, you need thicker skin. Then came another message. Also, don't forget Friday. The bank thing needs your signature. It's routine. Routine. That word made me laugh once, out loud, alone in my kitchen. The kind of laugh that means the last soft place has closed. I went anyway. My parents' house smelled like coffee and lemon cleaner, which is the smell of every serious conversation my mother has ever tried to soften. Blythe arrived late, wearing sunglasses though the sun had already gone down. She kissed Dad on the cheek, ignored the chair beside me, and sat across the table like she was the guest of honor at a trial she expected to win. I placed my packet on the table. She placed her phone beside hers, screen up, like a woman expecting compliments. Dad started first. Girls, let's not make this ugly. That was my family's favorite command. Keep the truth pretty enough to swallow. I said. I agree. So let's use documents. Blythe rolled her eyes. Oh God, here comes the coupon committee. My mother whispered her name, but not sharply. Never sharply enough to matter. Blythe looked at me and smiled. Nadine, sign the renewal. We all know you will. You're not going to let the bank take my house because of one joke. That was the second hard insult. And the more honest one. Not the coupon line. This. We all know you will. In 5 words, she showed me the cage I had been living in and the key she believed I would never use. My hands went very still. I opened the packet and slid the first page toward her. This is the original guarantee. Then the next. These are the default notices. Then the next. These are the payments I made to prevent review. Then the spreadsheet. This is what your life has cost me while you stood in rooms calling it success. Nobody spoke. Even Blythe did not speak for a moment, and I want you to know how rare that was. She stared at the papers like they had insulted her by existing. Then her face hardened. Why would you bring this here? She said. To humiliate me? I looked at my parents, then at my sister. No. To stop being humiliated quietly. Dad picked up one notice, read 3 lines, and set it down as if it had burned him. My mother's eyes filled. Nadine, she said, why didn't you tell us? I almost smiled, because that is the question families ask when the truth finally becomes inconvenient to them. Why did you not tell us? Not why did we never ask? Not how did we let one daughter carry the other daughter's mansion on her back while laughing at the car she drove underneath it? I said, because every time I tried to be more than useful, this family found a way to make me feel cruel. Blythe stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. You are cruel. You are jealous. You always have been. You couldn't stand that I got the house, the marriage, the life. Her voice broke on the last word, but it did not soften me. I had paid too much for her tears already. Blythe, I said, you did not get the life. You financed the appearance of one with my name. That sentence hit the kitchen like a dropped plate. Dad closed his eyes. Mom covered her mouth. Blythe looked at me with real hatred then, clean and bright, because for the first time I had not left her a beautiful lie to stand behind. She reached for the packet, but I put my hand on it. Not hard. Just enough. I am not signing Friday, I said. I called the bank this morning. I am withdrawing from guarantee review. My mother made a small sound. Dad said, Nadine, wait. Blythe said nothing for one breath. Then she said, if you do that, you destroy me. And there it was. Not the house. Not the loan. Me. The mansion had become her body. The SUV had become her skin. The image had become her life. I felt sad for her then, but not responsible. Those two feelings had lived tangled inside me for years. That night, they finally separated. "I'm not destroying you," I said. "I'm returning your life to the person who has been taking credit for it." Friday morning, I drove to Cormorant Federal in my old Buick. The grinding noise was worse, but the car made it, which felt appropriate. The bank lobby had gray carpet, fake plants, and the chilled quiet of places where people's futures get discussed in numbers. Callum Price met me in a glass office. He had the forms ready. I read every line. This time, I did not sign to save my sister. I signed to save myself. At 9:17 a.m., my guarantee withdrawal became official. At 9:42, Blythe received notice. At 10:03, my phone began to ring. First Blythe, then Mom, then Dad, then Blythe again. Then a text from Aunt Rhea. "What in heaven's name is going on with your sister's house?" By noon, the whole family knew something was wrong at Briar Hollow Lane. By evening, they knew enough to be afraid. The bank had placed the loan in default review. Blythe had 30 days to cure the arrears, qualify a loan, or sell before proceedings began. The mansion did not vanish in one dramatic movie scene. Real consequences are less theatrical and more merciless. They arrive in certified envelopes. They use phrases like acceleration clause. They do not care about chandeliers. The family meeting happened the following Sunday, not at Blythe's mansion, but at my parents' house, because nobody wanted to sit under the chandelier anymore. Blythe looked smaller without her stone front behind her. That should have made me feel victorious. It did not. Revenge, real revenge, is not always sweet. Sometimes it tastes like medicine you should have taken years ago. She cried. She accused. She said I had waited for the perfect moment to punish her. I let her speak until she ran out of breath. Then I placed my car keys on the table. The old Buick key, dull and scratched, sitting beside the bank copy. "You laughed at that car," I said. "But that car is why your house still had a driveway. I drove it because I was protecting my credit while your loan sat on my name. I drove it because someone had to live below her means while you performed above yours. And I am done letting you call my discipline failure just because your fantasy was louder." No one laughed this time. Not my mother. Not my cousin. Not Blythe. Dad looked older than he had a week before. He asked me what would happen now. I told him the truth. Blythe could sell the mansion before the bank forced the issue. She could move into something smaller. She could keep her SUV or keep her dignity, but probably not both. She could learn the difference between a life and a display. Or she could keep blaming me until the bank taught her in a language colder than mine. Blythe sold the house 46 days later. Not for a loss, because the market was kind even when she had not been. She paid the arrears, cleared the bank review, and moved into a townhouse with a normal kitchen and a one-car garage. She told people she was downsizing for peace. I let her. That was the last gift I gave her without paperwork. She sold the SUV too. I heard that from my mother, who told me carefully, as if the vehicle had died in the family. My Buick kept running another 5 months. Then I bought a 3-year-old Honda with cash and no cosigner. And the first time I parked it outside my apartment, I sat in the driver's seat for 10 full minutes, touching the steering wheel like it was proof of citizenship in my own life. Blythe and I are not close now. Maybe we never were. Maybe closeness built on rescue is only proximity with invoices underneath. But 2 months after she moved, she texted me one sentence. "I didn't know how scared I was until you stopped being scared for me." I read it 3 times. I did not answer right away. Then I wrote back, "That makes 2 of us. So if you have an old car, an old coat, an old habit of saving everyone while they laugh at the way you survive, listen to me. Sometimes the thing they mock is the evidence of your strength. Sometimes your restraint is the only foundation under somebody else's luxury. And sometimes the hardest revenge is not taking their house, their money, or their pride. It is removing your name from the lie and letting the truth make its own phone calls. If this story found you where you live, tell me in the comments about the person who laughed at your sacrifice because they never knew they were standing on it. And subscribe, because quiet women do not always stay quiet. Sometimes they just wait until the paperwork is ready.